This is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark and Today Netflix review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
On today's episode, we are discussing Ripple, episode 7, titled The Gift, which is currently streaming on Netflix. If you're a fan of this type of review and you're just listening to us because of our Ripple reviews, we invite you to listen to our additional reviews of all things Hallmark. You can always find our weekly schedule over on Instagram, where we are Girls Gone Hallmark.
Hey, we have a Facebook group. It's mostly Hallmark-centric, but if you have found yourself like watching Ripple and you are a Hallmark movie watcher as well, we invite you to come join us there. We are Girls Gone Hallmark in Facebook groups. We also have a Patreon, which is no Hallmark at all. It's patreon.com/Megan and Wendy. We drop 4 episodes a month. It's loose. It's chit-chatty. We talk about pop culture, what we're reading and watching. We talk about what's good in our lives, a little lifestyle, a little where we're at as midlife women. We would love to have you over there.
Before we read the synopsis of this episode, we got an email from Lisa with her feedback on Ripple, who, by the way, also says she's watching because of us. So you're welcome, Netflix, for our influencing. But she's talking specifically about Claire's behavior in episode 6. Claire going to Chris and stepping in. She says, I wonder if the writer knows a nurse. This is such on-the-nose nurse behavior. We're all control freaks, and we always know the best way to solve a problem and the most effective manipulation method. Claire realized how infatuated Nate was with Chris, and she used Chris's feelings for Nate to make her back off. I loved how when Chris pushed back, Claire didn't get defensive. She remained calm, and she led Chris to believe it was all for Nate's best interest. That was total BS. She saw Chris's insecurities and took advantage of them.
I would love for another nurse to weigh in. And Lisa is a nurse herself, so I'm just curious. Like,
yeah, is this classic nurse?
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, thanks for that insight, Lisa. Before we get started, apologies to the listeners if my voice sounds crazy.
I know I feel like you're fading fast.
I'm sorry.
We'll get through this and we'll call it a day.
Do you have a synopsis for this episode?
I sure do. Walter checks in on Chris as she settles into her new apartment. Nate's friends and family rush to his side after an incident at the bar. Can we be any more vague?
An incident at the bar?
I know.
Like he wasn't robbed.
No, exactly.
Well, let's talk news and notes for this episode. It is directed by Lisa Soper. She has 8 directing credits total and will also direct next episode, the finale. Her past work includes shows like Riverdale and Pretty Little Liars Original Sin. And for our Hallmark listeners, she's also behind the upcoming True Justice movies, True Justice 2, Eye for an Eye, and True Justice 3, Lost Love.
Where are those Hallmark?
Do
Question mark.
Believe the unconfirmed rumors that mysteries are relaunching on Hallmark Plus, Wendy?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, everything surprises me these days. So who knows?
Yeah, I believe it.
I think people are going to be real upset if that's the case.
I know.
Yikes.
Gird your loins, Hallmark.
Really? This episode was written by Joni Lefkowitz. She previously wrote episode 3, The 20. Her resume also includes Chasing Life, Jane the Virgin, and New Girl. She's currently a co-writer on a project in production called It Is What It Is, a comedy about a group of friends in their mid-20s realizing they can't actually be whatever they want to be.
Hey, that sounds interesting.
I know. I was like, please be somewhere like I can watch this.
Yes.
I think it sounds great.
Sold a bill of lies by your parents. You can be whatever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Our regular cast all returns this week. We also get a few additional appearances, including Kelly Fanson as Arya's mom, Rose, Lyrica Zochi as Nurse Angela, Danny Waugh as Dr. Ross, and Sherry Miller as Nate's mom, Millie. Let's take a quick break, and we will come right back with our first impressions. Hey, Wendy, what's your first impression of episode 7 of Ripple?
This episode is apparently not SSRI proof. I was not emotionally prepared for it.
Co-signed.
Absolutely effing broken at the end of this episode.
My first impression is no, I will not tell you what I liked about this episode. Alternate first impression, I knew you a-holes were going to do this to me.
I know. The Finn stuff, right?
Of course.
Okay, can we get into what we liked about it?
Yes. Over the weekend, you shared a post from Michelle Giannusa. It's actually from last month. It's from December. It was a photo of Frankie Faison. And in your commentary, you were like, this man needs an Emmy nomination, which I fully agree with. But what I wanted to discuss is the caption of her post is evergreen. And she says, it's challenging to cut through the daily rhetoric that attempts to take up your heart and heart space. That noise often buries the kind, steady, generous people out there doing their best to make someone's day or even someone's life a little better. We created Ripple to shine a light on the quiet acts of compassion happening all around us, to remind us that hope is still real, carried by those who choose to lead with humanity. We've talked a lot about how this show could have ever been meant for Hallmark, and I think it's only that right there that is the hallmark of it all, that feeling of hope. I remain happy that this show didn't land on Hallmark. I don't think it would have found its people there, but as hard as this episode was to watch, that feeling of goodness and hope does still come through in those small moments. And I think the choice to use Frankie Faison's face in this post is a wise one because Walter is such the heart of this show. I know Nate as Ian Harding is kind of the headliner of the show, but Frankie Faison and his character are the soul of it.
Totally.
And in those moments, like just the note on the fridge that he fixed Chris's fridge, you're expecting when she walks up to it that it's dead. Like that's what this episode is leading us to believe. Like, of course, her refrigerator in his stupid new apartment doesn't work. But no, Walter just came in and solved the problem. Walter is just a calm balm over all of these people. And I really love Frankie Faison and the character of Walter in the show. I will say it again for the 7th week in a row.
I agree. Like, he's totally my favorite. I reshared that post last night after finishing this episode because I just was so moved. I've been moved by his performance as Walter the entire season while watching this, but last night was something different. And I'm like, and it was so, like you said, it was so subtle, these like small acts of compassion and humanity. And I just think that we are living in a time where we need more of that.
Exactly.
And so it just hit me in the freaking gut last night.
Walter, in big and small ways, really in this episode, I mean, there was that refrigerator moment, but I also love when he steps up and offers to invest in Nate's bar. And he's like, I'm not being kind. He's like, I believe in you and in this space. And he comments about how important they've all become to each other in a different conversation over a short period of time. And he's the one who tells Chris that she absolutely deserves to be there in the hospital. I just can't say enough good things about Walter.
He's there for Ellis when they break up with Rebecca. And there is during that scene, and I don't know if you caught it, and it's sitting with me because I don't know what it meant, but like they're sharing a glass of wine and like he's looking around the bar and he's like, he's looking at the other patrons in the bar and they're like all, it's a quick glimpse of like seeing people like enjoying themselves. And he goes, And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. And I didn't know what it meant either. And then they cut to another scene that is related to Walter, but that he doesn't know anything about.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Lots of questions.
Yeah, lots of questions. Lots of questions. Yeah.
On a lighter note, this episode had a couple great comedic lines. Back to Walter saying, wow, you really are a sucker, to Chris about her rent. And Aria saying to Chris, we can't not be friends. I don't like that many people, and I know you don't either. Great.
Yeah, the writing is top notch in the show, even for like the dialogue. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Well, and speaking of the writing, I did not want to see Ellis's relationship come to an end because I did not want to see Ellis get hurt. But I do think that the way they wrapped up the Rebecca, Ellis, Montana conundrum was well done. The moment where Ellis has the realization that they can't leave, I loved that. But there were a couple of things about this whole process. When Ellis says it feels like the only solution is for one of them to lose, was great insight. And Rebecca is saying she needs Ellis, and Ellis says Rebecca needs Ellis to let her go. That's what Rebecca really needs.
Yeah.
And finally, they have a really loving and tearful goodbye. It's not a fight. It's not dramatic. It just is life. And then it's nicely punctuated by the wine bar patron, like, yo, could I get some service over
Oh my
here?
God. I laughed out loud. And the way like Ellis and Rebecca both looked at him, like there's tears coming down Ellis's face. And I'm like, this is so funny. And I think it's supposed to be like this, like, you know, like you said, like lighthearted, like it just was great. It was so great.
Well, I think it's kind of almost a little bit breaking the fourth wall where they're like, we're going to acknowledge that you're doing this at work and this is a little bit weird. So,
Yes.
you know, maybe get back to your job.
Yeah, I loved that. Loved it. There's a lot of things. So Nate's fever dreams, I thought were done so well. I think we have talked about throughout this entire series is like, we need more information. We need more information. We need more backstory, more context here. And then we get a bunch of it regarding Nate through his fever dreams he's having. I thought that was done so well. You know, the dream he has with like his parents and the bar and the money and the pressure gave this story of like, here's this dude who's like been trying to do these things on his own and his parents are very involved, but they're also like not kind about it. And, you know, I feel like he was just trying to be like his own man for so long. It gave some great background on who Nate is.
I just kind of love that his parents are terrible because there's a lot of good happening for Claire in this episode that I'll talk about, but it absolves any feeling I had of, oh, it's kind of icky that she sold that ring that Nate's mom gave her to fund his medical treatment. I'm like, I don't care what she did with that ring. Like, these people are awful.
The mom is terrible.
Yeah, they're the worst.
The dad. They're both terrible.
Terrible.
Worst. Yeah. The scenes between Claire and Chris at the hospital they're devastating, but they're so good too. Like, these two women may possibly love the same man, right? And they're sharing this moment of grief. And, you know, Claire's going on and on about like, how do I tell Anna about her dad? And then we know as viewers, Chris has just lost her dad. And there's so much, it's so layered there. It's deeply human. I loved it so much. You're right. There is kind of this redemption arc for Claire in this episode to me. As much as like I hated how she manipulated Chris in the last episode about Nate, there was a nice kind of understanding between the two of them in this one.
Yeah, I think the redemption happens largely in Nate's eyes. And so I think that's why we as viewers are able to come to accept it, because he has it in this feverish state, but it feels very genuine where he acknowledges everything she's done for him, everything she's been to him, as much as the way it ended wasn't what either of them would have wanted. He isn't letting the things that she did. And I love how she's like, it kind of was because of me. Like, she acknowledges like, yeah, I did things that I weren't great for our marriage. That's not what he's letting define them. And when he lets that go, it's easier for me as the viewer to let that go. And I can understand, as much as I didn't like it because I'm Team Chris, where Claire was coming from in pushing Chris away from him. And that in this really hard moment, she lets Chris in really in the only way she's capable of. I appreciated.
Yeah. Let's talk about Finn.
Oh my gosh.
This scene is done so well. I felt like as a viewer, like it was obvious what was happening to me, like, right? Mm-hmm. But as I'm watching this and I'm taking notes as I watch, I have to keep like pausing it and going, oh no. And then like rewind it and go, oh no, no. Like, and I know it's coming. I've known it's been coming the last 8 episodes.
I know. Look, did you see that moments are the moments that I either said OMG or no.
Yes.
And look, the second that Finn starts narrating this episode for me, I'm like, well, that's it.
Yep. Same thing.
That's it. Like, you're right. The writing's been on the wall. We knew Finn was introduced for a reason. As much as I just thought, surely they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that to us. And they did. And
when she says, gotcha last.
Oh my, I'm sobbing.
Even right now, I have chills about it. I'm like, they don't, shows don't typically kill off children.
I know.
And so this is what is so heartbreaking about, because, real life, it happens. It was a hard watch.
I appreciated the choice for all of that to happen off camera and to happen kind of from Nate's perspective.
Yes. We didn't need to watch Finn die.
No. Get sick. Exactly. We didn't. We're left with the memories of her as Nate was, as she was.
And then the reveal that Nate is excited that he gets the clinical trial spot. This is such a heartbreaking, cruel, effective narrative that I loved. But like when we see in a couple scenes later when the nurse comes in to tell Nate that Finn has passed and he has the realization that he got her spot, he's inconsolable. And I was a mess watching that. I thought Ian Harding was so good in the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. He needs to physically get out of his own body.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Would you like to talk wishes?
Sure.
So for me, Arya's storyline does move forward in this episode, obviously. Takes an enormous leap forward. But she, for me, has the most loose ends. It has me concerned for her, but it also has me... It just leaves me in... I feel like I'm really in limbo with Arya's storyline, is all I'm saying. And I know we have one more episode to go, but I just feel like we're maybe headed for a crash and burn because they hinted at something with her dad very early on in this season. We know something's going on with John. We know Chris knows about what's going on with John. And I feel like her mom's change of heart perhaps came a little bit too quickly, because we saw in the beginning of this season when Arya goes home, her mom was still making snide remarks about her choice of music paths. Mm-hmm. And so there's too much unknown. There's too much I don't understand. There's too much I'm worried about for her.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that will be the cliffhanger that they'll leave this season on. Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, are they going to cover all of Arya in this last episode?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just trying to think of the other storylines. Like, okay, Walter has all this. He gets Brenda's estate and has all this money, but he still hasn't met Lisa Gay Hamilton yet.
I know. And Lisa Gay Hamilton has some connection to the recipient of Brenda's heart.
Yes, exactly. How are they going to do this all in one episode?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest wishes, is that I'm desperately hoping that episode 8 does not end on some kind of cruel cliffhanger. I don't know if this show is going to be picked up for another season. I don't know if could it just be one and done? I don't know. I am not going to be prepared if this is where it ends.
I know, because look, I watch Emily in Paris. Don't judge me. It's candy television. And at the end, I finished the most recent season over the weekend. And at the end, they're like, season 6 is coming. It's already been renewed. If we're renewing Emily in Paris, which is highly watchable, but trash, please renew Ripple.
I thought the season that was on right now was the last season of Emily in Paris.
Well, at the end, unless it was a fever dream, which is entirely possible. I could have sworn at the end it said season 6 is coming. No, it ends on a cliffhanger.
Oh, maybe.
Cliffhanger-ish.
Gotcha. My other only wish is that I do wish Nate's mother in particular had been given a little bit more grace. I know she's terrible. Okay. I know she's terrible.
Spicy take.
But turning your mom away when you are possibly dying, that's a lot. Like, he does not want her there. And as a parent, do you see where
I do.
I'm at with this?
What's interesting is I never once came at that from the parent's perspective. I was coming at it from Nate's. I think the issue here maybe is that you can't imagine being as terrible a parent as Nate's mom was. Like, they're awful to him.
I know.
And we only see those brief moments, but they didn't love Claire. They were so judgmental of his lifestyle. Like, they're supportive in a way that only serves their interests, that maybe she just hasn't earned the right to be there. And if these are his last moments, that's not who he wants to spend them with.
I know, but
I hear you, but I don't think you're not going to be that parent. So I don't think you have that to worry about.
Yeah, okay.
Can I absolve you of that?
Sure.
That's not going to be your path.
Okay. I hope, God.
Let's talk. Did you see that?
I have 2.
Okay.
Chris and Arya are having coffee after they've reconciled, which I just love so much. And we finally get a little bit of the clarity on timeline here. I don't know if you caught it.
Well, at one point they said it's been a month.
Well, Arya says to Chris, quote, "You know where I was a few months ago. I couldn't even leave the house."
Yes. And then when Walter and Chris are talking, Walter says, have you seen Nate? And Chris says, it's been about a month.
I missed that one. So, okay. We have wide gaps of time,
But then later, Walter says, isn't it incredible how close we've all become, important we've all become to each other in the span of just a few months? Okay. So the whole thing is like, I guess the show has taken place over a few months, which still seems like a little bit too short a period of time, mostly for Nate's treatment timeline. That's the one that doesn't make as much sense to me, but
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Gotcha. My other did you see that is Tara is reading The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh,
I wondered if you thought this was intentional.
I hope so. I didn't notice, but I hope so.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, give me the backstory on that.
One of my did you see that's is so ridiculous, but also related to Tara. And I know we are not meant to know, but I do also need to know what Tara believes is the correct way to hang a toilet paper roll. Marcy T. House, weigh in.
Oh, I would love to know. The correct way is over.
Of course. The only other thing I had in my Did You See That's were a collection of moments that made me audibly react out loud. The first was seeing Brenda's heart, knowing that was obviously going to play into her future moment. Also learning about Walter's inheritance. I said out loud, oh, he's going to invest in the bar. I also thought maybe he would invest in Chris's business, but I think the bar makes the most sense. That's such a place of home for Walter.
Sure.
The moment we see Walter, what we assume is his future love interest, and Lisa Gay Hamilton have a connection in some way with Brenda's heart recipient. Maybe that's a good friend of her son. They seem to be of the same age. I don't know how she knows him, but they seemed close. Of course, the second Finn walks in Nate's fever dream, my husband was in the room and I was like, oh no. And he was like, what are you? And I was like, just shh. Then we learn about the clinical trial opening. That confirmed it for me when the doctor is telling Nate and Ellis. I loved Ellis's reaction in that moment of just kind of a grief relief moment where she just kind of feels that, where she's happy in a weird way. And then when you see the nurse through the window of Nate's door, all these moments, like, we know what is coming. If you've been paying attention, I just said, oh no, just over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's such good TV. Yeah. One more, Megan, one more.
Man, one more. Hydrate ahead of time, I guess. Yeah. Although it can't be worse than this episode.
I think this has to be like the epitome, right? Like I'm hoping for like hope and healing in the next one.
Yeah, I hope we get some positivity for these people. We end on a hopeful note.
Yeah, same.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. We will be back next week talking about Ripple episode 8, the finale. If you have ideas on what you want to see us review next outside of the Hallmark universe, we'd love to hear them. You can email us at girlsgonehallmark@gmail.com. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.